Have you ever opened a formula and it looked like this? So very often I'll get a student and they'll ask me, we have this very experienced user in Excel and they do these really difficult formulas. How can I get as good as that and build formulas like that? And then they show me the formula and it looks like this. And this is what I call if function hell. So I wanted to go over if formulas that you should not be using in Google Sheets or Excel. Now, if you open that same formula in Excel, it's not going to look any better. So if we go here and look at it, it's just as bad. So let's try to talk about what you should actually do and how you should handle these formulas instead of doing what's done here. Now we're going to get there step by step. So I'm going to start with things that are a little more simple, but still terrible way of approaching if statements. And we'll kind of get to this formula as we go through it. So let's start with this first formula right here that assigns what office people work in. Now, if you look at this formula, it's an if statement, and we have this nested if functions. And basically, it's going to check if this salesperson is Grace, then it's going to assign it to LA office. Then we got, if it's Nia, it's going to do this San Francisco office. And then we got Jose and the next office, and so on and so on and so on. Now, this formula gets out of hand really quickly, and it's very, very difficult to manage. So you should really never write an if statement that looks like this. So instead, what you should do a lookup table. So let's create that really quickly. I'm just going to paste values only. I'm going to delete these extra columns. Just to speed up writing all of this data, I'll just go to data and do remove duplicates. And that should be our helper table. So basically all we need a column of salespeople, and we need a column that assigns which office that person works in. Now, once we got this, then we should be able to solve this problem using a lookup, and then it's going to be a lot easier to manage that formula. Now, this is the original. Now, every time we have to add or change somebody's office, we have to go inside of this formula and figure out what to do. With our new formula, if I create another one here, all we're going to do is a VLOOKUP or any type of lookup you want to use. So I'm going to click on that sales rep, comma. Then we need a range or array. So I'm going to go to that lookup table and I'm going to select those two columns. You could select the range. I'm just going to go with column in this case. F4 to make it absolute reference, just for good practice here. Comma 2 to grab results from my second column, and 0 for exact match. So at this point, if I hit enter and drag this formula down, I should be getting exactly the same results I had with that if statement right here. And this is my new formula, a lot easier. And if we had to reassign somebody to a different office, all we have to do is just go here and play with this table, right? Just change the name. Maybe you add a name, you just add the name, you enter the new office, and you're done. You don't even have to update your formulas. It updates automatically based on this table. This is unmanageable. So this is a basic example of a formula with a bunch of if statements that you should not use. As a matter of fact, when I see a lot of if statements, in many cases, I find that it should be replaced with some sort of lookup. Now that was that. Now let's move on to a different example here. Let's look at this one. Now for this one, basically what we do, we assign different levels based on the sales amount. So you'll see here, if that amount is above 9,000 or equal to 9,000, we assign level 1. Then if that amount is between 8,000 and 9,000, we do level 2. If that amount is between 8,000 and 6,500, we do level 3. Anything less than that is level 4. Again, bunch of if statements, bunch of and functions. You could make this easier by using ifs or something like that. But again, the best approach is going to be here to do a lookup table instead of dealing with any of this stuff. What I'm going to do here, I'm just going to create that lookup table, and I'll use that same tab. So the first thing you would do, you would assign your ranges. I'm going to have to go check the formula to see what those ranges actually are. I think that's what I had, but I'm not sure. So 6,500, 8,000, 9,000. So that should be 8,000. And then for each one, we're going to assign the level. So again, if I go back to that formula and take a look, see, this is level 1, which is basically 9,000, the higher one, then level 2, level 3, and so on. So again, I'm going to go back and create my lookup table. So it's very important when you create a lookup table like this, you start with a lower number and go up to your higher number. So we go 0, this, this, this. And this is where we're going to do approximate match VLOOKUP or range lookup. So I'm going to go back to that other tab and build my formula now using this lookup table. Let's add a column next to this. So I'll do my VLOOKUP again. And I'm going to point to that sales amount, comma. And then I need the range or table array. So I'll go to that lookup table and select my new table right here. F4 again to make it absolute reference, comma. Then I need my results from column number 2, comma. And finally, this is going to be approximate match, range lookup, is sorted, whatever you want to call it. So basically our true or 1 option instead of 0 or false. So that's what I'm going to do. 1, hit enter. And I'm going to double click to drag this down. And you'll see I should be getting, again, the same exact results. Only, again, it's a lot easier to manage. We don't really have to touch this formula anymore. Anytime we want to change, we can just come here, update our table, and we're done. Now, if you go back to this, there's also this unknown in cases it doesn't match any of these things for whatever reason. Maybe you have an error or something of that sort. So if that is something you want to do, you can go back here and add if error function. Let's type that correctly, if error. And then I'm going to do comma and unknown. And then I should be able to drag this formula down, and we have our more manageable lookup instead of using that if right here. So again, I'm going to delete this column and we'll keep this. And again, all of this works exactly the same way in Google Sheets or Excel. Before I get to commission rate, let's also talk about this one, commission. And what this formula does, we basically pay commission here based on profit. And in this case, profit is going to be sales minus cost of goods sold. If we take our sales minus cost of goods sold, let's just do a quick formula here so you can see what that looks like. So that's going to be that formula. And then once we get this amount, we're going to take this and multiply by commission rate to get their actual commission. But the problem here is that in some of these cases, see, we're losing money. So if you look here, our sales is 2,600. Our cost of goods sold is actually higher. So in this case, we have a negative number. So we don't want to have negative commission. In cases when this number goes negative, we just basically want to keep it 0. So right now, if I just took this formula and we just simply multiplied by their commission rate, if we drag this formula down, let's actually format this as currency. So these are okay, but this one gives us a negative number. In this particular example right here, the way it's handled is that we do that particular calculation right here, basically the difference times percentage, and we check if that amount is greater than 0, then we're gonna do that formula. In all the other cases, we just put a 0 here. So again, this is another if statement that you can handle in a different way, and it's gonna be a lot better than what's done here. So we go back to this. We don't want this negative numbers here, right? So what we can do here, we can use a max function, and we can say, choose between that number that we get from this formula, comma, or 0, like this. So this is what I call doing a logical max or min function. So what's gonna happen now, it's gonna get us same sort of results. We simply just get our calculation. If this is negative, the max is gonna choose 0. If it's positive, max is gonna go to the actual number that we calculate. And then we don't need to have this repeating pattern and this crazy formula. Instead, we have a very simple, nice formula that gets us the same results. So finally, let's get to our commission rate. So here, basically, there are different commission rates based on sales rep region combination. So in case of Isabella South, the rate is 3%. Now, if we look through this, we're gonna find that there is also for Isabella, like over here, see there's Isabella Northeast, and that's also apparently 3%. And if we keep going through this, like here, we have Isabella Midwest, and that's 3.5%. So depending on the combination of region sales rep, we're gonna get different percentage of commission rate. And as you can see, this is an insane formula, very difficult to manage, very easy to make a mistake. So again, we're gonna do a lookup to fix this. So first, let's build that lookup table. So I'm gonna start by, again, I'll just copy paste and remove duplicates to just make my life easy here. I'll just paste values only, delete all these other columns. And we'll just erase our duplicates out of here. Maybe make this percentage formatted. We could sort this to make it easier to read through this. So maybe we'll do first level to be sorted by sales rep, and then second level by region. So now we can see, for example, we got Edward, and for each region, he gets some sort of commission. And then we got Grace, and then you can see that depending on the region, we get, again, commission rates for Grace, and so on and so on. For each person, there are different rates. So basically, that would be the table you would create. You got your list of people and the regions, and then you assign how much commission they're going to get. So now we're going to go to our previous tab and use this lookup table to actually get our results instead of using that crazy if formula. So let's add some space here. So this formula is going to be a little more complicated, but compared to that if statement, definitely not that complicated. So we need to do a lookup, and the problem we're going to have is we need to match 2 columns instead of just matching 1 column, right? And there are different ways of approaching this. You could use filter function, you could use sometimes some ifs, depending on what you're trying to get, if that's a number. But I'm going to do a solution that's going to work in many different situations. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to start with equal sign, and then I'm going to click on this region in my current row and check if that region equals, and then I'll go to my table and select this entire region column. So it's a logical test that's checking if that equals to this. So since this is going to be an array formula, I'm going to do Control-Shift-Enter or Command-Shift-Enter to get array formula around this. If you're using Office 365, you wouldn't have to do this Control-Shift-Enter. You can basically just hit Enter. Now, to explain you what's actually happening here, it's hard to understand that if you look here in this table. We're going to have to move this to the other table. So I'm just going to select this, copy this whole thing, go to my lookup table and paste here as values only. And what you're going to see is that I get a true here in this line where this is south. Then I'm going to get another true where this is south. And then every time it's that south region, I get true next to that. And if I go to my data right here, if you remember, I did my formula in this line where I was checking if my region is south. And that's the reason I'm getting those. So I'm going to keep this formula as is. I'm going to do another formula right next to this. And this time I'm going to check for the rep. So we'll click on this rep right here. And I'll check if it equals. I'll go to my lookup table and select now this column H where my reps actually are. Then again, I'm going to do Control-Shift-Enter, hit Enter, and we got our results. One more time, I'm going to copy this and paste it as values only here. So now let's look what happens. So this time I get true for this, which is Isabella, and then all Isabellas would be true. And again, if you remember, in that line, if I go back to this table, in this line, I was checking Isabella. So basically, I now get the South Isabella, that combination, in my lookup table here. If I keep looking through them, this line, both are true because it's both South and Isabella right here. For all the other lines, one of them is false, the other one is true. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to convert both of these columns to numbers, zeros and ones, instead of getting trues and falses. And the way I can do that, I can go back here and open my formula and put this whole thing inside of a function called n, like this. It's just a single letter function, like that. I'm going to do that, hit enter, and now it all converts to this dollar signs. Let's actually, for now, remove those. And I'm going to do the same here, do n function around this whole thing, and get my results for that too. So now I'm going to take both of those zeros and ones, and I'm going to multiply them together. So I'm going to take this, and I'm going to multiply it by this. So I'll just copy this n function from this formula, hit escape, go back to this, and right inside of our array, we'll just do multiplication sign and paste our second n function. We have two n functions multiplied together. If I hit enter, I'm going to get this column. Now I can delete this one at this point. So now I have one column that gives me the zeros and ones. Now let me try to explain you what's going on here. So I'm going to go ahead and now copy this. And again, I'll go back to my lookup table and I'll paste it here as values only. And what you're going to see what's happening here is that when I get false and true, the total I get is a 0 because this is 0, this is 1. We multiply 0 by 1, we get a 0. Now, if we keep going, you'll see one of them is 1 because both of them are true. So 1 times 1 is actually 1. So we get a true out of this. So if I delete this at this point, we now have all of these zeros that don't match. And we have this one, 1, that will actually match. So the one that says 1 is the line that we're actually after. This one, South Isabella combination. So if we could just search this column and find where 1 is in this column, we should be able to know where South Isabella combination is. So I'm going to go back to this. We have this whole thing that gives us that 0 and 1. And what we're going to do, we're going to put that whole thing inside of a match function. And match function will help us basically search and find something. And we're trying to search and find that 1. So I'm going to search for 1 inside of this range that I just did, comma, and we need this to be exact match. So I'm going to do 0. Just like this. I'm going to hit enter. And you'll see what I get is 12 right here. So the answer I got for this formula is 12. So what does that actually mean? If I go to my lookup table, if you look, row 12 is where we got South Isabella combination. So now it gives us the row number where we find this combination of South and Isabella. So if we could just now go grab this commission rate from that row number 12, we should grab the correct commission rate. So I'm going to delete this column. We don't need that anymore. So all we have to do to get that, we're just going to have to use index function. So I'm going to grab this match function that builds this formula, cut that out, and use now index function here. So for index function, we're going to need the column where we need results from. So I'm going to go to that lookup table, select this whole column with commission rates, comma, and then finally the second thing we need is the row number or index. So I'm just going to paste that match formula that used to give me that position. So now I just need another parenthesis to close this and hit enter, and we should get that 3% right there. So at this point, I'm just going to select all of these ranges, do F4 to make them absolute reference. This one, this, and this. All the columns, basically. Hit enter. And if I just drag this down, I should be able to get exactly the same results that this formula used to produce with all of this nested if statements. Now, all I got is one formula, and that's going to produce our results. So now, if we have to manage this, all we have to do is just go and update again our lookup table, and we're done. If you want to add new people, add regions, just list them here. Nothing to update in a formula. It just works based on that lookup table. Our formula will stay the same, and we're done. Now, let's just verify that this same formula also works in Excel. So what I'll do, I'm just going to copy this without that array formula part. The rest of the formula should be exactly the same. Hit escape. Let's go to Excel. This is pretty much where we are. We have our lookup table the same way listed here. I'm going to go to data and we'll just add a column here. And I'm just going to go here and paste that formula equals that same index function that refers to our lookup table. Exactly the same thing. And as you can see, it works the same way. Now, if you're in Excel, you have tables available to you. So it would be wiser, instead of selecting this whole columns, to use an actual Excel table. So the way that would look like, instead of doing this columns that I did here, where I did like this G column and H column. So this G and H column refers to this region and sales rep. What I would do, I would go here, convert this thing to a table. So I'll select this, go under Insert, Table, and that's going to convert this entire thing to an Excel table. We can go here and remove this design, or you can keep it if you want to. I'm just going to keep this one. That's fine. Now I'm going to go up here under Table Design and name this table. Right now it's called Table 1. Let's just call it Rates Table. I'm going to do rates underscore table. You cannot use spaces here, but underscores are fine. So now we have this rates table, and in this table, we have this columns region, sales rep, and commission rate. So what I could do here, I could go back to this, and instead of doing this lookup table G, which refers to this region right here, I can go back here and replace that with rates table, open square bracket, and point to that region column. Double click on that, close square bracket. So that's that first one. The second one refers to our sales reps. So again, instead of doing this, I can do rates table and then sales rep. So this is where we check for this to match region and this to match sales rep. And then finally, we need our results from commission rate. So we're going to just grab this, remove that, and do rates table. Open square bracket and do commission rate column. Close that square bracket like that. Hit enter. Should be exactly the same thing. The reason this is better, this is going to be more efficient. Instead of referring to the whole column, we now have that smaller range we refer to. It's less work for Excel to actually do. And since we have a table, if we go and add more, it will know it's a part of that table anyways. It will update your formulas. So if you're in 365, you should be able to just do this, hit enter. If you have earlier versions of Excel, you will have to open this formula and press Control-Shift-Enter to apply the formula for this to work. And that's how we escape if function hell. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.